Hello, my name is Lewis and welcome to Gathering the Magic. With the official release now less than 1 week away, we're looking at the top 10 most valuable Innistrad Midnight Hunt cards. Starting off the list at number 10 we have Poppet Stitcher. This 2/3 blue human wizard says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 2/2 black zombie creature with Decayed, and at the start of your upkeep you may transform Poppet Stitcher to Poppet Factory. Poppet Factory is an artifact that makes your creature tokens lose all abilities and to have base power and toughness 3/3. This is a card you really want to alternate with. On your turn or on a rotation, get out all of those instants and sorceries, massively build that 2/2 Decayed army, then on your upkeep, if you know you've got no more instants and sorceries left to play, transform Poppet Stitcher and you've got a 3/3 zombie army that can block, attack and not die due to it losing that Decayed ability. If you really time your plays right, you've got a card that can get you a crazy big army and then one that will make an army that won't disappear and you can go wild with. Poppet Factory counts for all of your creature tokens too, so if you're running a deck with all of those zombie creators, then soon that army is going to get a big buff and swarm your opponents to death. A great new card, and one that if you're worried about it being a little bit pricey, I'm sure it will come down a fair bit once release hits us later in the week. Before we get on to number 9, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe for all things MTG. It's completely free to do and it helps out the channel as we head towards 2,000 subscribers. Next on the list we have Bloodthirsty Adversary, a 2/2 vampire with haste that when ETBs you may pay 2 and a red any number of times. For each time put a 1/1 counter on it and exile that many instants and sorceries with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard and copy them. You can cast them without paying their mana cost. That was a mouthful, wasn't it?
Phrasing?
If you've got the mana here, those options you can recur out of the graveyard can be filthy. There are so many already viable, strong 3 CMC or less red options out there that can not only give you a load of mana, but can just cause so much carnage that this is a card worth saving until the late game in Commander and just go absolutely crazy with those cards like Jeska's Will being an absolute killer. The adversary cards are aplenty in Midnight Hunt, with one of each colour being printed, of which the black, green, white and blue adversary cards have just missed out on the top 10 most valuable, so I'll pop them up now so you can pause and have a look if you want. Perhaps it won't see as much play in Standard, but Bloodthirsty Adversary is definitely a card I can see picking up steam in the Commander community. For the next most valuable card we have Unnatural Growth. This enchantment costs 1 and 4 forest and says at the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control until end of turn. This card is mad. For the cost of 5, it's like having an overwhelming stampede each turn. It's not base power and toughness too, so if you've got those commanders or even creatures that you've beefed up with +1/+1 counters or no max hand size, then until the end of turn they're going to be absolutely massive. As I alluded to earlier, if you've got any sort of finisher cards that'll either give all of your creatures trample or ways to get that damage in, then this truly green stompy card is going to crush your opponents into the ground. If you've got a Gruul deck with all those beloved extra combat phases, you're getting to do this multiple times a turn as the trigger doesn't occur until combat. I'll be sure to make this an auto include in my Tishana EDH deck. This is a brilliant card that certainly has an insane amount of potential, and it will be easier to pack as it's only a rare and not a mythic rare. Please pack gods, be on my side in a couple of days time. Next on the list we have Tovala, Dire Overlord. This Gruul 3/3 rare says whenever a wolf or werewolf deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 3 or more wolves or werewolves, it becomes night and you may transform any number of human werewolves you control. Tovala then transforms to the Midnight Scourge, again with that deal damage draw card option, and you can pay X and Gruul to give target wolf or werewolf +X+0 and trample until end of turn. This is a fantastic new commander option that you're of course going wolf, werewolf tribal with. Pack in so many of those different types of wolves because whenever that damage gets through, you're drawing more cards, and you know more cards drawn usually means more chance at that win. You really want to include all those human werewolves because the more of them you have on the field, with Tovala you can transform them all at the same time, which is just beyond huge. And thanks to those previous Innistrad sets, there are plenty of them out there. Tovala is a really cool new commander option that I can't wait to get myself and, dare I say it, maybe even make a deck around. Just missing out on the top half, we have Moonvale Regent. This 4/4 dragon with flying says whenever you cast a spell, you may discard your hand. If you do, draw a card for each of that spell's colours. And when it dies, it deals X damage to any target, where X is the number of colours among permanents you control. So straight away, this is going in that Golos deck. Whether you're running a 4 or 5 colour commander deck, or just have a deck with plenty of coloured cards in the mix, there are many cards, as you can see now, with all of those colours flashed around it, to really maximise that Moonvale trigger and get you 5 cards. I'd happily cycle that Garth One Eye to draw me 5 tasty cards. The death trigger is also spicy, as it could do up to 5 damage to any target if you have all of the colours on the board. It really does offer some good removal post death. This is an interesting new card, and one I think again will come down in price a fair bit once the set is in full swing. For the next most valuable card we have Lier, Disciple of the Drowned. Lier is a 3/4 human wizard that cannot be countered and gives every instant and sorcery in your graveyard flashback. Its flashback cost is equal to its mana cost. This card is recursion royalty. In past sets, the flashback cost has always been more than its initial cost, meaning the value for mana you'll get here will be insane. Whether you want to be flashing back all those cheap cards to send creatures back to their opponent's hands, flash back more cards to draw you more cards, or maybe you want to be the villain and keep flashing back all those cards to get you extra turns and just see out the game even quicker. You'd want to pack your deck with all sorts of protection cards like Dive Down and Mizium Skin. Have that option to get some quick protection onto Lier, and your opponents will be too scared to come at you. The fun thing about this card is there are a million ways to go with a deck like this. Some casual, some fun, some filthy, and some a combination of everything. This is such an awesome potential commander option, and one I'd definitely consider making for my first mono blue EDH deck. In as the 4th most valuable Midnight Hunt card, we have Teferi, who slows the sunset. His +1 loyalty ability says to choose up to 1 target creature, artifact or land. If it's a permanent you control, untap it. If it's a permanent you don't control, tap it. And, either way, you gain 2 life. Its middle -2 ability says to look at the top 3 cards in your library, put 1 in your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Its ultimate -7 loyalty says you get an emblem with untap all permanents you control during each opponent's end step, and you draw a card on each opponent's end step. This is like an evolved Wilderness Reclamation or Seaboard Muse on steroids. Of course, if this was a 99 card in a Super Friends deck or any Populate Loving deck out there, then this can get to that -7 loyalty in no time and be at a very good chance of winning you the game. Emblems are key for Planeswalkers. Once you get them, they're not going anywhere. With it being Azorius, getting all of that protection, deter your opponents from attacking you, then ultimate Teferi, go wild and send your opponents home to plot their revenge. Taking the bronze medal spot, we have the Meathook Massacre. This evil enchantment says when it ETBs, each creature gets -X/-X, depending on how much you pay. When a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life, and when a creature your opponent controls dies, you gain 1 life. I already love this card, and I see it slotting right into my Ayara deck. It's already similar to cards like Massacre Worm, and I am a big fan of that. Chop down the board whilst either keeping your creatures or getting value from their demise is the game plan there. If you're pairing off this card with Sanguine Bond and other life-loving cards, then you're on the path to life gain and opponent's life drain, with combos like this really taking its toll quickly. You drain, you gain. You drain, you gain. You drain some more, gain some more, and before you know it, hello Aetherflux Reservoir and goodbye opponent. This is the coolest new enchantment I feel like I've seen in a while, and I cannot wait to get my hand on this gory, great card. Runner-up and the second most valuable card from Midnight Hunt is Arlen, the Pack's Hope. Arlen is a planeswalker with day and night bound, and its +1 ability says until your next turn you may cast creature spells as though they had flash, and each creature you control ETBs with a +1/+1 counter on it. And -3 says you create 2 2/2 Green Wolf creature tokens. When that daybound hits, Arlen becomes the Moon's Fury, with that +2 adding Gruul, and that 0 says until end of turn, Arlen becomes a 5/5 werewolf creature with trample, indestructible and haste. Although it can't be your commander, maybe when Arlen becomes that indestructible beast, you want to go equipment crazy and just do some insane damage. Of course, there are some great commander options too if you're looking for Arlen to just slot into the 99, whether it's some more wolf tribal or just some nice Gruul commanders that like hitting for big damage. Arlen is a wicked new card, and I'm a huge fan of the showcase and borderless art. Let's hope that I open some in my set booster boxes. And for the most expensive commander, we have Wrenn Seven. The big box office movie sequel to Wrenn 6, this Planeswalker is huge. Wrenn's +1 says you reveal the top 4 cards of your library, putting any lands to your hand and the rest to your graveyard. Its Naught ability lets you put any amount of lands from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. Its -3 says you create a Tree Folk token with reach, and its power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control, and its ultimate returns everything from your graveyard to your hand, and you get that sweet, sweet no max hand size emblem. So of course this creature is going to slot so well in those no max hand size loving commander decks. But of course those decks need to be as rampy as possible. The more lands on the field, the stronger those Tree Folk tokens are getting. Since its first reveal, you can see that the price has quite rapidly taken a sharp decline. So if you pack one early, maybe it's time to sell it. But if you don't, just hold out hope. I think it'll keep going down in price as this set gets released worldwide. There we have it, that is the list. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe for all things MTG. Check out our link tree in the description below for all of our social media and affiliate links. But for now, I'm all tapped out. So I'll see you in the next video.